Genius People Who Beat the System, Part 4. Firstly, this woman really wanted to bring her bottle of water on a flight. But if you've ever traveled on an airplane, you'll know that you can't carry more than 3.4 ounces of liquid with you. So in 2013, she came up with a genius loophole. She carried a large can of water with her, but the water was frozen. And according to the law, you can't carry water in a liquid state, but you can bring frozen water. Moving on, you can't bring alcohol to a music festival. But in 2017, a man named Alex Diamond came up with a genius idea. A few days before the Electric Zoo Music Festival, he went to the site and buried a water bottle filled with alcohol, pinning the exact location on Google Maps. A few days later, when the festival started, he went to the same spot and dug up the bottle. Finally, this kid was having fun playing games on his computer, until his parents told him to go outside and play. So he took his computer outside and started playing there.
This might be the scariest thing that ever happened to America. We all know that America had a lot of scary things happen to it. But this has to be the scariest thing ever. On August 29th, 1968, every single TV in America shut down. But a demonic whispering was coming from every TV in America. Many people believe that it was the devil trying to get across some message. But nobody really understood it. This lasted for about 25 seconds, then all the TVs came back on. To this day, nobody knows what caused it or why it happened, but everybody believes it was the works of the devil.
After a massive manhunt, the missing hiker has been found alive after 10 days. And how he survived is crazy. 34-year-old Lucas only planned an afternoon hike in California's oldest state park. So he set out with very few supplies and not even a t-shirt, expecting to return home in a few hours. However, he soon became disorientated as recent wildfires had destroyed familiar landmarks. And since Lucas didn't tell anyone where he was going, the alarm was only raised after he missed Father's Day lunch 5 days after he set out. This sparked a massive manhunt involving nearly 300 people and multiple agencies. While they searched, Lucas wandered the forest, slept on wet leaves, foraged for berries, and drank water he collected from his boots. Without a t-shirt or any supplies to start a fire, he developed hypothermia. He was stalked by a mountain lion, and things got really bad when he got injured after slipping on a wet rock face. Lucas lost over 30 pounds and spent the last 48 hours just lying there screaming for help. On day 10, a drone and a sniffer dog finally found him, and at last he was reunited with his family waiting for him on the forest's edge.
Scariest interviews with serial killers. Serial killer John Hughes. John Hughes was convicted of 15 murders and sentenced to life in prison in 2010. When he was interviewed and asked if he would kill again, he said this:
"'Cause you'd kill again."
More than positive. I got different thoughts.
Then he was asked if he felt bad for the murders he had committed, and this is what he said.
"You don't feel bad about killing anyone?"
Not personally, that I've personally done myself, no.
Why?
Wrong place, wrong time.
Follow for more.
Do you know how weird time is? If you have two twins that are 20 years old and you sent one of them to the star Sirius at 99% the speed of light and then flew back again, the twin who stayed on Earth would be 37 years old and the twin who is traveling would only be 22 years old. Every single person on Earth, including you, is living in the past because our brains don't perceive an event until about 80 milliseconds after it's already happened. It is a very fine line, but that's why some physicists argue that there's no such thing as the present moment. The way that you perceive the passing of time is heavily dependent on the language you use. People in most Western cultures perceive the passing of time as being left to right because that's how we write, but other cultures perceive it as up to down, east to west, or right to left. Time is actually passing faster for your face than it is for your feet, because the closer you are to the center of the Earth, the slower time moves. A year at the top of Mount Everest is 15 microseconds shorter than it is at sea level.
What could this strange creature be? An alien, or perhaps a demon? What we need to keep in mind is that when the body of a fur-bearing animal decays, especially if it's in a moist area or submerged in water, the fur will often fall off before the skin decomposes. And it is for that reason that I am very confident we are looking at nothing more than the corpse of a decomposing monkey.
Creepiest home camera footage. In 2017, a mother in Billings, Montana woke up in the middle of the night to a notification on her phone. Her phone was synced to a baby monitor she had set up in her infant daughter's room. On this night, upon being alerted, she opened the app expecting to see her daughter awake in the crib. But instead she saw this. A man she didn't know is seen crouched down in the room. She saw this and ran to the room to retrieve her daughter and run out the house. She didn't see anyone in the room but wasn't exactly looking. When she called the cops, they arrived and conducted a search of the home but didn't find anything. A very odd detail is that it was found that nothing but the remote to a dog shock collar was stolen from the house. Who this man is and how he got in the house is still unknown.
These are things humans should never hear, Part 1. What I'm about to show you is a simulation of what happened to Alaskan Flight 261 following a catastrophic loss of pitch control, killing all 88 people on board. This is real audio footage of the plane going down between the pilots and air traffic control. The plane went inverted, meaning it was flying upside down, and just listen to how calm the pilots are.
Genius People Who Beat the System, Part 1. This student was only allowed to have a one-page cheat sheet, so they wrote a whole page of notes in blue pen and another page in red pen. They then brought 3D glasses to class, so when they looked through the blue side, they could see the red pen, and when they looked through the red side, they can see the blue pen. This guy's new job required a photo of him in a suit for their new website. But since he doesn't own a suit, he just photoshopped his face over this guy's face, and honestly, it looks pretty real. A girl's dad went to Vegas for 5 days and put a camera in the living room to make sure she didn't have any parties. But the girl wasn't going to let that stop her from partying, so she came up with a pretty creative solution. This parking spot says only green vehicles can park there, but I think the owner of this car took that a bit too literally. This kid's mom told him that food wasn't allowed in the living room and his tablet wasn't allowed in the kitchen, so it's safe to say that he beat the system.
My God. This creature, nay, this nightmare, is something so incredibly rare, it is likely that none of you have ever heard tell of its kind before. It's called a turtle.
Here's some of the greatest conspiracy theories of all time. Part 4. The Grinch has a well-known backstory about hating Christmas. However, eventually in the movie, his heart grows 3 sizes and he loves Christmas once again. But this story may continue longer than we think. It is clear that the Grinch isn't exactly right in the head. but during one of the Grinch's wacky stunts, he could have gotten a head injury. This injury would later take a toll on him as he grew old and caused him to lose his memory. After him and his dog died, they were given a new life in a realm called Halloween Town, where they now lived as Jack Skellington and Zero. He later reunites with his love for Christmas, just like he had when he was alive. Both eventually wear a Santa suit, both deliver presents, and both have a dog companion. It may be possible that How the Grinch Stole Christmas and The Nightmare Before Christmas are tied together.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew, Part 16. Kangaroos are absolutely terrifying, and if you mess with one, it will likely lure you into the water and attempt to drown you. There's an abandoned Disney park that you aren't allowed to go to, and it was shut down in 1999 because it was infested with free-roaming alligators. The animals were being abused, and an 11-year-old boy died from a flesh-eating bacteria found in the park's waters. In the movie The Wizard of Oz, the lion's costume was made out of a real skinned lion. This is the John Lawson house. No one knows who lives there, but every single day, there are several female mannequins sitting on the front porch wearing a variety of clothing. Their positions and outfits change daily, and many believe this is meant to convey some sort of message. And in 1871, a train crash took place just 200 feet away from the home, killing 22 people. And these mannequins are always pointing toward the crash.
This Inuit tribe crafted tools out of space metal. 10,000 years ago, this meteorite landed in the Arctic in northern Greenland. An entire Inuit community sprang up around it just to make tools from the iron in the meteorite, which resulted in badass stuff like this, a spear made from a narwhal tusk tipped with space metal. They didn't even have enough wood to make fires to actually forge the metal, so they had to cold forge it, just hammering it with giant stones until it was the right shape. The tools were so valuable, they were traded as far away as Norway.
When the bravest bear in history was just a cub, his mother was slain by hunters, and the poor orphan was carried off to a train station in Iran. But when he was rescued by Polish soldiers fleeing the Soviet Union, they bottle-fed him back to health with milk and honey, and on cold nights he even cuddled up next to them in their tents. Imitating the soldiers, he learned how to smoke, drink, and wrestle, and when the men went on patrol, he'd march alongside them on his hind legs. When a spy broke into the Polish camp, he sniffed him out while hiding in the showers, and when the intruder laid eyes on his furry foe, his panic scream alerted every soldier within miles to his presence. But when the Poles boarded British boats bound for the Italian campaign of World War II, they were presented with a strict policy prohibiting pets on their ships. Yet not willing to leave the brown bear behind, they found a loophole and formally enrolled him into the Polish army as a private. During the famous Battle of Monte Cassino, the Germans had fortified a monastery upon a hill and had devastatingly repulsed 3 prior attacks. But carrying crates of ammunition that would normally require 4 strong men, the courageous cub charged up the hill, successfully resupplying the Polish artillery. And even in the face of heavy enemy fire, he never dropped a single crate, allowing Allied forces to capture the stronghold and gaining promotion to corporal for his bravery. After the war ended, the Iron Curtain prevented the Poles from returning home, and so the brave bear was brought to a zoo in Scotland, where he was frequently visited by his fighting friends, who'd often bring him treats and jump into his enclosure for a good wrestle. And it's said that for the rest of his life, he would happily stand up and salute whenever he heard Polish. When you're the most ferocious furry fighting force to ever fight for the free world, they don't just call you the bravest bear, they call you Corporal Wojtek.
Could you live on a pillar for decades without coming down? It sounds impossible, but this was actually a way of life that emerged around the 5th century CE in the Eastern Roman Empire. These Christian ascetics were known as stylites. They would eat, sleep, fast, write, all on top of a pillar for years without coming down. They would rely on the locals to give them food. The earliest known stylite was a man named Simeon. He was a Christian ascetic from the 5th century CE near the city of Aleppo in Syria. He wanted to be left alone, so he climbed up a pillar. But he actually became more popular when he climbed up and started living on here, so his plan sort of backfired. He ended up spending around 37 years living on a pillar. Travelers would climb up ladders to reach him just to have a conversation. Certainly an interesting way of life.
This is gonna blow your mind. So this preacher from Zimbabwe claims he can walk on air. Well, I'm convinced. Hail Messiah! There's definitely no other explanation for why his feet were off the ground, like people on the side holding him up. That's definitely not what happened. It's not like you can see the shadow of the door closing on his left when you slow down the footage. Just shut up and tell me where to donate my money. I mean, come on, it's not like people use religion to scam people. I mean, yes, the preacher has a nicer house than all of us, but then again, he walks on air and we don't.
Case closed.
Terrifying sounds extinct animals used to admit, and the last one's the worst. If you don't know this extinct mega chicken, you must be living your life under a rock. This is a dodo bird. 3 feet tall, 45 pounds, and a pair of chicken wings that are more useless than a penguin's. It can make an omelet for a family and produce a sound that would cause me to move to Mars. The lizard that got into your bag of Tren, the Velociraptor. Or should I say Jurassic Myth, because they didn't look like this at all. Hollywood lied to you. At least the film's fuck-up looks more like a Utah raptor. This is actually what a velociraptor looks like. It's basically also just a giant chicken. Moving 25 miles per hour and hunting in packs isn't the scary part. It's the way they sound. The only difference between this next animal and my meat is that it went extinct, the Titanoboa. And if this BGC's length at 50 fuck no feet isn't impressive enough, how about its 3 feet in girth? This twisty telephone pole could squeeze at 400 psi, crushing any 20-foot crocodile that lived at the time. And this nope rope makes a sound like no other. The extinct blubberbus that used to swallow the megalodon, the Leviathan whale. This living sea monster is a distant cousin of our daily sperm whale. Except unlike the living load we have today that primarily consumes giant squid, the Leviathan had no predators and ate everything. And the sound alone is enough to terrify me. Congratulations, you've made it to the final animal. And I'm sorry you have to hear this, but the T-Rex doesn't actually look this way. Real-life Reptar looks much more terrifying with a haircut like Grandpa. And boy, do I have news for you. Their arms weren't useless. It said that they could have bench pressed up to 400 pounds. And did I mention they can also swim? The sound they made is weird, but the closest relative they have alive today is also weird. It's the chicken. I'm so sorry it had to end this way. Enjoy.
Sorry for being so unprofessional.
Whoa!
Wow.
No way! Oh, what?
Hey, my name is Ajax, and in case you didn't know,
I am the first and only animal made to make music, born of rock, stardust, and mold.
How many of you guys remember this girl? She went absolutely viral in 2020 for making faces in court. But before we get into her story, my name is Ashley, and if you guys like crime, creepy, and unbelievable stories, check out my YouTube channel or my TikTok for more content. So this girl's name is Isabella Guzman, and in 2013, she fatally stabbed her mother over 79 times. The video that went viral was actually from 2013, but somehow it took 7-8 years for it to reach mass audience. So initially, Isabella was quite young when she started exhibiting a lot of behavioral issues. She was living with her mother at the time, but when she was 7 years old, she was sent to live with her father. After a few years went by, her father then sent her to go live with her mother again when she was a teenager. And in August of 2013, the relationship between Isabella and her mother quickly deteriorated. They were fighting quite often, and on August 27th, they had an argument that ended with Isabel spitting in her mother's face. The following morning, Isabella's mother received an email saying, "You will pay." Obviously, she was terrified and didn't know what else to do with her daughter, so she called the police. The police arrived to her home and then talked to Isabella, telling her that if she didn't straighten up, that her mother could legally kick her out of the house. Isabella's mother then called her biological father to come talk to Isabella. He came over to their house and had a long talk with her in the backyard, talking to her about respect. According to him, he thought that they had made a lot of progress, but then a few hours later, everything changed. August 28, 2013, around 9:30 p.m., Isabella's mother, Yeonmi Hoi, arrived home. She told her husband she was going to head upstairs and take a shower. That's when her husband hears these awful screams coming from upstairs. Obviously, he runs upstairs to see what's wrong, and when he gets to the bathroom, he sees Isabella slamming the bathroom door shut, locking herself and her mother in the bathroom. He tried as hard as he could to get that door open, but it was locked. All he heard was screaming and an obvious struggle going on. Then he saw blood seeping through the bottom of the door and called 911. Then, as the door was opening, he heard his wife say the word Jehovah, and then Isabella walked out of the bathroom with a bloody knife. Apparently, Isabella didn't say a single thing, just stared at him and walked away like nothing had happened. He runs into the bathroom to check on his wife when he discovers that she had been brutally stabbed 79 times. Unfortunately, she passed away. By the time police arrived, Isabella had run away from the home, but police quickly found her the following day, hiding in a nearby parking garage. On September 5, 2013, Isabella was brought into court for the first time, and that's where we see the video of her making all these faces. We'd later find out that Isabella was actually suffering from schizophrenia and had delusions for years. According to her, she didn't remember that she was stabbing her mother. She thought that she was stabbing a woman named Cecilia in order to save the world. The judge accepted her plea of mental insanity and sentenced her to a mental facility. In June 2021, Isabella was given permission to leave the hospital for her therapy sessions. She has expressed remorse for what happened, but also said that her mother was extremely abusive towards her.